Hi, this is Kathy L. Murphy, and I'm reporting from Murphy's Law, my little cabin in the woods. I'm the pulpit queen, and I'm here with my co-host, Robert Gwaltney, in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're rocking our 80s look, you all. I've never had so much mousse in my hair in so many years, probably since the 80s. And check out that beautiful tuxedo pink shirt. You don't even look real. I just want to pinch your cheeks, don't you? And this is Ruthie Landis, who is one of our fabulous authors from Chicago, who has all this theater background that is just wonderful to the mix. We just need to bring you in as another co-host. Why can't we have two? I mean, you're fabulous.
You should know. You remember how in some of those shows, there would be the two co-hosts, and then they'd bring in like Kitty Carlisle or somebody like that.
Are you going to be our Kitty Carlisle?
I want to be Kitty Carlisle.
Well, you've got to do that. She had that bubble, but she had that flip on one side. I used to be fascinated by her. Remember the Jetsons? Mrs. Jetson had that same do, only in red. And I thought, how did they get that one piece to just, actually, you know who else had it? The newspaper columnist who did her and her twin sister had the manners columns. She had her hair like that too.
Oh, dear Abby, and then her
sister was
Landers.
Yes, you remember that do?
Oh yes. Yes. I played a character, a charm school operator, and her name was Pepper Steep. And I wore a wig that was exactly like that. And she talked like this, and her name was Pepper Steep. And she had hair, but
she
had hair that just flipped, on one side. Just on one side. And of course, if you touched the wig, it was like your hand could get stuck there forever, right?
I believe it.
So on the topic of hair, Kathy, you have fabulous 80s hair.
Oh my God.
I did, even back in the day. I mean, my hair is easy to manipulate. It's baby fine, it's fuzzy. So I can get it to do curls and all different things. But, I've been doing this since 1977. I've been doing hair since 1977. When were you born, Robert?
I was born in 1969.
Okay, you were just a little kid, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I am not. A lot of people think that I'm a real, beauty queen, and I'm really not. It's just costume and playing characters. It has nothing. I feel like that girl that used to do those one-woman shows. I used to love her. I haven't seen her in a while, where she played all the characters. Can't think of her name, but she would play, elderly women. And you guys should have seen me when I played Sissy Spacek from The Help. I had the flowered flat hat and the little purse, and I walked into my sister's for Halloween. She goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, you look like Daddy." And I said, I do. But I love when people don't immediately recognize me. It's just, I guess one of the things, I'm a chameleon. I just like to do different things.
Chameleon. And everyone looks lovely and they're pretty in pink this evening.
Well, pink there was a wonderful movie about fashion where it was everything. It was started out with all these 60s styles where women were wearing pink. Eve Arden, wasn't she in it?
Funny Face, starring Audrey Hepburn.
Well, that was one, but this wasn't it. This was one where they were all models and they all came out wearing pink, pink, pink. And it was like, this season is pink. And I just thought, pink is kind of like leopard print. It never really goes out.
Right.
And you know that men wore pink before women. It all started during the Rococo time period of when we had Marie Antoinette, and the men wore pink and ruffles and lace and makeup and wigs and high heels.
I'm going back in time.
Me too. If I could go back, have you seen the Netflix show Versailles?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Oh, I
The
haven't.
wigs are amazing. The guys have fabulous
Oh,
hair.
I'm telling you, those two guys who play in it, one's from Wales and one's from England.
Right.
They are
They
magnificent.
are
And
magnificent.
it's very, very sexy. It's a sexy show.
It is a
And
good
it's
look.
very provocative, and it reminds me of the swing, the beautiful picture of the girl with the swing and the pink. And there's a wonderful museum in New York called the Frick, and they have a whole Rococo section where the whole, all the walls and the ornate with the shells and pinks and ribbonry. If you ever get to, I think it's a permanent collection, so you've got to go there. So let's get started with talking about the movie Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink is probably one of the most iconic films of the 1980s. I have not seen it since, I can't even remember when. And I remember when we were discussing, Robert, what films we want to do, which one we would do from the 80s, and you mentioned that one. My first thought was that horrible prom dress, the pink prom dress that looks like it was made out of, with not taffeta, but the lining that you put in bridesmaids dresses,
Mhm.
that cheaper, thin taffeta. In fact, it was quite possibly a stovepipe would have
Was
been
so
more attractive. And she hated that dress, by the way. And it was her influence because she was a vintage Goodwill Salvation Army shopper. And my kids and I have always um, shopped in estate sales and things looking for one of a kind items. And it's amazing what you can find. So this movie, this John Hughes movie, which he his claim to fame was all of these films like this, but the casting was perfect, but it wasn't the original thoughts, right? I've done a little background on this. Do you,
Oh,
Robert, do you
tell
know?
me, I want to hear. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, Molly Ringwald was there from the start, but they were trying to bring somebody into the picture that she would have as a love interest, and she thought of Robert Downey Jr. Um, let's see, who was Judge Reinhold? Wasn't he one that? But he was too jockish, and when they showed her Andrew McCartney, and Andrew McCartney, I watched an interview today where he was asked about this, and he said, "I heard her say, pick him because he looks like he's kind of like a poet type guy. He's the kind of guy that I would fall in love with." So, on her recommendation, that's how Andrew McCartney got this position. And he said to this day, when he goes out in public, people see him and they go, "Oh, it's probably like, the way I feel about seeing certain stars of movies that were very iconic, like I always think of all the boys that starred in The Outsiders. That was one of my favorite films by Susie Hinton, Essie Hinton. Oh, Little Oklahoma Girl. She wrote that when she was 17. She's amazing. And I think about, all those stars, Rob Lowe and Emilio
Estevez.
Estevez, and all the different people that were in that film, and how they all went on to be stars, pretty much every one of them, as did all the ones in this film. But your favorite character in the film, and you've seen it now, right, Ruthie?
Yeah, I had seen it when it came out, but I didn't remember it really. And I guess I was a little snobby then. I think I have to say I might have been. But I watched it today and I was really surprised at really how sweet it was. And it was like things that crossed my mind, like Romeo and Juliet. Of course, in Romeo and Juliet, they weren't two classes, but they were warring classes. But what do you do when you fall in love with somebody who isn't from your world? in any way. And that touched, that really touched me. And boy, it really was resonant even about now, all these years later. We still have that same divisiveness and splitness kind of going on. And then after having talked about the Enneagram today, I mean, I was really interested in like going, what number was that one and that and then what's his name? Her father, he was such a great actor. Oh,
He was, and didn't he pass away not too long ago?
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen him. In fact, I saw one of his last films. Oh, I'm gonna have to look it up, and you guys have got to see it. It was one of the best films I've ever seen. That guy could do anything. He was a wonderful character actor. But
Harry Dean Stanton.
yes, Harry Dean Stanton. Pull up his film credits and look at his last one because it's absolutely, even up to right before he died, he nailed it.
I know. And what was that one that he did that was out in the desert? Oh God, he was brilliant in it. He might have been nominated for an Academy Award for that one.
I'm pretty sure I'll have to go back and check all of his movies. That's what this does. When you watch these films, you want to know, hey, what happened to that person now? Of course, my favorite character of all the characters is Ducky, because that scene in the record store with Annie Potts behind the counter and her vintage 1940s type style, and Molly Ringwald never, she's just like deadpan face, but her teenage angst in this movie is it's all in the face. I mean, you can see every emotion that she's feeling at all times, and she was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. When you're closer to the age of the actors, you always find a little lame.
Yeah.
Because when it came out, I was going, oh man, this is, I really related to Ducky because I liked his style.
Right.
He had the hat and he wore the bolo to prom. I just.
But was
I had
her style?
some of those bolo ties.
I do too. I do too. I love them because I'm a Kansas girl. I've got.
So the John Cryer character Ducky was influenced by Molly Ringwald's input to John Hughes about her best friend. Of course, her best friend is gay. I think they've been friends for like 40 years now, and of course, they didn't. Molly Ringwald was just stunned that people thought that they would actually get together in the film, because to her it was obvious that the character Ducky was gay.
Oh, yeah.
And that the ending that you see in the film today isn't the original ending.
No, what was it?
That everybody hated the ending.
Yeah, they booed.
Well, what was the ending? I didn't know any of that. No.
The Andy Walsh character, played by Molly Ringwald, got together with Ducky, played by John Cryer, in the end. And when they were testing with audiences, they booed.
Yeah.
And Molly Ringwald did not like the original ending because she felt like, in her mind, it was a Cinderella story, that really that she should be able to get together with Andrew McCarthy's character, Blaine, and that class shouldn't separate people.
That's what I was saying. That's what was so pivotal to me. And they, he was Ducky was desperate to love, and that's all. He was desperate to love, and he was complex. It was really interesting that moment when he kissed Annie Potts.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
isn't she fabulous?
My favorite quote. So Annie Potts plays Iona, who is sort of Molly Ringwald's sort of mother figure and mentor. So she says, I know I'm old enough to be his mother, but when the duck laid that kiss on me last night, I swear my thighs went up in flames. He must practice on melons or something.
Melons.
My God. And that dance scene in the store, and then when they panned his shoes, I mean, those white shoes all scuffed up and everything. I thought, I've known so many guys that just didn't have the money to dress the way they want to dress, and so they just try to make it as best they can. And I just thought he was trying so hard. But they thought about using a lot of the actors from previous John Hughes films. But I just think this one was so well cast. It was wonderful. And the sister, who's getting, married and everything, and they forget her birthday.
I mean, 16 Candles.
Oh, I'm getting mixed up with 16 Candles.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're close.
They're merging them.
Very
But
close.
I love 16 Candles too.
I'm gonna have to watch that one again too. You're right. I am. And I just been watching it. So I'm gonna finish watching
So
it.
I want to ask you guys something because it was driving me nuts.
Okay.
So I'm watching Andrew McCarthy and the way that his scenes are with her, and I'm looking at his mouth, and I'm looking at this expression, like he would be like kind of serious, and then he would do a kind of smirky smile in a way, very ingratiating. And I'm like, who does that remind me of? I can't pin it down, but it's not him. And then it hit me after I watched the movie. Think of Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that.
Just the mouth. And you know how Dustin Hoffman will have a scene and then he'll all of a sudden go from a straight look and then he'll do this kind of smirky, kind of ingratiating smile.
Right.
And I was like going, oh my God, did he steal that from Dustin Hoffman? Because that,
we'd have to find out.
Well, and Andrew McCarthy, I think, was a little insecure about his teeth. So he held
that would answer it.
He did not have perfect movie star teeth. So even today, he never had them fixed. So I think, in my mind, he does that mouth thing to camouflage a smile.
Oh, but it was really effective. Like I kept going, I know this though. Somebody else does this, the same kind of straight and then.
And James Spader, has anybody changed more dramatically in life as an actor as James Spader?
Although, okay. So, I mean, I was looking at him and I'd watched him, what Sex Lies and Videotapes. And I mean, I am a big James Spader fan.
I am too. I loved him with.
Okay, but you know what, you guys? So I've been watching his series, The Blacklist.
Great.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, I love the series. Okay,
Does he have the shaved head?
Huh? What?
No, it's not shaved, but he's
shaved.
balding.
He doesn't have much hair. Yeah. But I will tell you that he does stuff in Blacklist that he did in that movie. So when you talk about, like we were talking about the Enneagram a little bit, and then you say, well, is an actor the number that they get cast in? Like the same number as the character in terms of their personality and the other. And sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. But I think he is actually, because in the Blacklist, he has this power about him, definitely a power type, but he, and a kind of seductive bad guy, he almost always plays, but he does something in the Blacklist that he did in this movie. Remember when he does this thing and then he just walks away and just goes, like, I can't remember what the line was. Oh, well, or something like that. And he just walks away. And I looked at it and I said, he must do that in the Blacklist all the time. So he hasn't completely changed, is my point.
Well, I mean, if you saw me back in the 80s, of course I've changed. We've got the neck going and the crinkly eyes and all this stuff, but you still remember. And it's just like what Andrew McCarthy said, is the people come up to him and they just go, oh my gosh, and he goes, what you are relating to is not me. Because he said, I've aged. He said, what you're relating to is that place you were at that time in your life. And so when you watch that movie, it brings everything back, gym class, brings back all those not so great memories, that, everybody always has a crush on somebody that's unattainable. I mean, it
Yep.
never fails. And, when my girlfriends from home, we all got back together, we were all talking about, people we had crushes on in high school. And I said, I was the kind of girl that, I went to the homecoming dance and I can remember my date. I won't mention his name, but, I went with him. I've known him ever since we were little kids, nice guy and nice family and everything. And we get back to the house, and as he's dropping me off after the dance, and he turns to me and he said, Hey, he goes, I know you're best friends with Heidi, my best friend. He goes, Do you think she'd ever go out with me?
Oh
You know,
no.
I just can't imagine what the they were thinking that would happen if you said that to a girl you just taken on a date. But I remember I did not handle it very well. I go, Are you kidding me? I go, You asked me on a date just so you could get to me, so I could see if I could fix you up with my best friend Heidi? And he said, Well, yeah, oh yeah. And then he lunged for me to try to kiss me goodnight. And I go, No, I don't think so. Save that for, And I told Heidi about it when we were together the other day. She goes, Oh my God. She goes, and I know why everybody loved Heidi. She was so beautiful and lovable. She's the best friend in the whole world. And it's true. But there is always somebody, whether when you're in school, that you have a crush on. And just you just can't ever even imagine that they'd even look at you, you know? So, did you guys ever have that happen to you when you were in high school?
Oh yes.
I
Oh
imagine
yeah.
it was really hard for you, Robert, because
Yeah, it was challenging.
it was challenging because, the guys on the football team or whatever, you might have had a crush on, and, it's just not acceptable. I mean, it's just amazing to me how we times have changed so much now. We can talk about these things, but there was no way when I was in school that could ever be discussed in any form or fashion. And I had gay teachers. We had a gay woman teacher married to a gay man teacher, and that didn't end up so well for them, because they married for convenience.
Yeah.
And it was really, that's a tragic story. But you
Did
know
you notice about this story? I just want to ask you guys what you thought about this. So how John Hughes made a decision that there really was only one parent that you saw, which was Molly Ringwald's parents. Like you didn't know Kevin McCarthy's parents. You didn't get a backdrop at all of what their lives were really like,
No.
except Molly's.
Right.
That was the only one. He was so discerning about not doing that.
Well, it
You
was
know,
her
like
story. It was her story about a young girl trying to find her place in the world and wanting not to be the forgotten child, or not to be, the her dad was wonderful though. I mean, I could not, oh, I would give
Mm.
anything to have a father like that.
You
He
know,
was,
and I think that was the point. I think that because she had that strong parental presence, that made her the remarkable young woman that she was, juxtaposed against these wealthy children whose families really had very little engagement in their lives.
even though her dad was deeply flawed and in denial and not supporting her, and she kind of had to be a grown-up. She had to take the place of her mother, definitely a caregiver for sure, right?
right.
And she, but they loved each other so much, and there was such an openness that he could even learn from her, and that they had that beautiful confrontation scene where she says she couldn't love us. She couldn't love us, my mom. She had to leave us because she didn't have it in her to love us. And such a sophisticated, you know, character, right? To be able to tell her father then, and then that beautiful transformation where I felt like after that he was going to get his act together and get a job. But the only reference to any other parents was when James Spader gave that big party
Mhm.
and he made some kind of comment, like everybody was drunk and everybody was drugged, and he made some kind of comment about, oh, we can do this until Sunday when they come home, and boy, that's going to really, rock their world, when they come home and see this complete mess of the mansion, right? So that was the only moment where you got any sense of a backdrop. You didn't understand Ducky's family. You didn't understand anybody else's.
Yeah, there's almost a sense of abandonment about those affluent
Right.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, yeah, yeah, there is that. When I was in California, I was a au pair for two little girls. They kind of remind me of the Hilton girls because this family was so affluent, and they were literally on their own. And they had I was their 17th nanny, and they were 7 or 8 and 10. They were just a couple years apart, and they lived with their dad and their stepmom. And she would come home every day. She was a psychiatrist that taught at a doctor. She was a doctor in psychiatry that taught students in college. And she'd come home every day at 3 o'clock, and she'd lay something at the end of each one of their twin beds, like sheets or pajamas. Every day, something new. And the kids would come in, just push it off the bed. It was just, but I took them to their writing lessons, their ballet lessons, to shopping at the mall. And they were really sweet little girls, but they were alone all the time. And I just think, oh my gosh, um, I can't. You kind of understand why these girls grow up, and they have these vacant personas about themselves when they talk. It's like I don't even know how to just put my finger on it. There's not a whole lot of emotion, and I think we this was the first time talking about the family dynamic. In the 70s, we still had the Brady Bunch. You know, we had shows like that. And then when you go back further than that, you had Father Knows Best and, all these different shows where families were, you Leave It to Beaver. And then we get into the 80s, and all of a sudden parents are divorced, parents are gone, you're being raised by a stepmom, stepbrother, those things start coming into play. And now the family dynamic is so mixed and diverse. It's, blended.
And it's modern family now.
It is modern family now. And it makes you wonder what the future is going to be like. It's going to be very interesting. But Molly Ringgold, she's one of these I mean, she was really young when she did that, right? How old was she?
She was the youngest of the cast. She was 18. The others were in their early 20s.
Right.
So she was still a teenager. I think she was 14 or 15 when she did her first John Hughes film.
And I've always said, I would never want my child to be a child actor because it is so hard. And I just watched, you guys, on YouTube. There's a documentary on Shirley Temple. I said, she's the only child actor that I ever knew that grew up without, all these stories. Oh my goodness, I've got to read her book. I listened to her talk to Larry King, and it's nothing like what I thought. Nothing. She loved her mother and father very much, but by the time she was 20, 22, she got married, and she asked for her money that she'd made all her life, and she'd made millions and millions, and I think she had $44,000 in her account.
Yeah. There's this story that I heard her tell too, and I don't in an interview, and I think it was Louis B. Mayer was the studio that she worked for.
Oh yeah.
So her mom was very protective of her, when she got a little older, and her mother was always in the meetings, but something happened and they
Yeah.
managed to separate her from her mom. And so she was alone with Louis B. Mayer.
No, it was actually, she was sent in with the director, and her mother went into a separate office with Louis B. Mayer.
Okay. So was it,
What
uh,
happened is they both were hit on by both. She ran out of there and her mother ran out
Oh
there, and they
my
got in the
God.
car and dead quiet. And she goes, "Mother, you won't believe what just happened to me." And she told her, and she said, "Same thing happened to me with Louis B. Mayer." And I'm thinking, oh my God, you
so
guys.
the guy that was with Shirley Temple exposed himself to her,
Yes.
and she started to laugh.
He
And
thought it was
and she
funny.
said that that's the only thing that saved her, because when he whipped it out, she just started laughing hysterically.
She said,
Oh,
"I'd never seen anything like that before. And I just thought it was so funny." He was humiliated and he kicked her out, and thank God. But, what would make, I've
Oh,
never understood in a million years, why would a man think that would turn any woman on by just exposing themselves? They
yeah,
want
I don't know that it was
reaction.
about. I don't know that it was about turning the woman on, but so much the thrill that he got himself for exposing himself. I'm thinking.
of course. And
Yeah.
weren't we just talking about Natalie Wood a few weeks
Yeah.
ago? And talking about how she was totally hit on. Terrible, terrible. It was just rampant. The idea of the casting couch, that was not made up. It still is not made up. It still exists.
Right.
It
It's
still
going on right now. It happens when people are just so desperate to make it as a star. And for anybody that's out there listening that wants to know what it's like to be famous, nobody really wants to be famous. These people don't have lives anymore. If you've ever read anything about Michael Jackson or Elizabeth Taylor or Marilyn Monroe, you can't go anywhere. And I think one of the most interesting conversations I listened to the other day was, there's this wonderful Bollywood woman star named Mathura Dixit, who married a man who's Indian that was raised in the United States, and they lived in Colorado Springs. And she said she started in the movies as a young girl, and she said she couldn't go anywhere. She'd travel the world, but she basically went from, her trailer to the set, back to the trailer, back on a plane to go back home. But when she married him, they were first in California and they moved to Colorado Springs. He's a cardiologist. And she said, "I was able to go to the market and shop." And she goes, "The freedom that you have in the United States is incredible." She goes, "Because I can't go, if I go back to India, I can't go anywhere. You have to have drivers and bodyguards and everything." And I'm there's nowhere I've ever been famous in any form or fashion, but you do, something happens when you get on TV. People get weird, quirky ideas about you and stuff. And I've had through the years some weird email stalkers, and now, I actually had a stalker who showed up in an event that scared me so badly that I left the state for a while. And we got it all taken care of. But I had a woman who just got fixated with me, and I'm pretty sure she had a knife. And it was at an art event, and I talked myself out of it, but it was the scariest thing I've ever had happen. Nobody really, people want to be loved, and they want their work to be appreciated. And I think that Molly Ringwald has a pretty good head on her shoulders, because she stayed pretty much true. I've seen some of her movies that she's done. She plays a mom. She plays in a lot of, like, I want to say Disney type movies where she's a mother, and but she's seems like she's got her head on straight. I think it's very hard for people to, they either so buy into it that they become a monster, or they succumb to all kinds of alcohol and drug abuse, and
And I need to say, as we were talking earlier today, if you're basing your sense of worth on whether you're being chosen in this moment or that moment, because I hate to tell you, in the world of showbiz, it's like you're only remembered for your last good review, and you get a bad review, or you fall off the privileged wagon of some sort, and you're a nobody. You hear people say things all the time like, I know I would say it, gosh, I haven't seen that person in a film for years. Wonder whatever happened to them. And they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. What happened? Well, maybe they chose to back off, or maybe they just lost luck, or somebody got pissed at them, or something like that. You could just be, it's such a fickle business that if you are basing your sense of who you are and your worth on whether you're getting jobs, I mean, at a certain part of my career from Screen Actors Guild, I was making, considered in the upper 5% of people in Screen Actors Guild. And I never made, as an actor, more than maybe $60,000 as an actor, never more than that. But I was in the up 5%. 95% of actors in Screen Actors Guild made less than me. And those were good years for me, when I was doing that as an actor. And so what does that mean? It means that literally what, 0.3% are the ones we all know about as rich and famous, right? And everybody else is not. You can't keep it going very much. It's really rare. And so that's why there's drug and alcohol use, right?
And my answer to that is that if people go, oh, you post a lot of pictures about yourself up on Facebook. I go, you know why I do that? I go, because I don't want anybody to see me in person and go, dang, she got old. I just snap these pictures because I want, when I change my look or change my style, I want people to realize that when they see me, they go, I just ran into a woman at the dollar store and she goes, oh my God, is that you on, I have my art and a picture of me on the side of I said, yeah, on a good day. She goes, you're an artist? And I go, yes. And we just had this whole conversation in the parking lot about, and I said, this is the way I really am. But I doll up for things. But what you have to learn is that if you do things because you think this is going to fit a trend, or you're trying to please a certain audience, you're missing the whole picture. The whole picture is you want to do the work that makes you happy. I mean, I said, I hope I can paint after I die, because my idea of going to heaven is being able to do this still every day. I love creating and painting, and I don't do it with a thought of, will this sell? I just create what I want to see. And if people buy it, then that's great. If they don't, I got something I want to see on my wall, I think, and whether you're a writer, like your book, I'm pretty sure, Robert, when you wrote your book, you were writing that because that's the story you wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. And I think that is when things get really authentic. And whether you're an actress, if you get out there and you put your heart and soul into your performance, then you can walk off that stage and it doesn't really matter whether you get the review or the thing. In your heart of hearts that you've done the best you can do. You earned it. The secret to life is earn it. You may not get to be in the newspaper or in a magazine or on television, but you have that sense of pride in knowing that you earned it. It's
it's so interesting that you're saying this, because as an acting teacher and dealing with performance anxiety and all this stuff, what I would say is exactly what you could have taught my acting class. I would say, if when you go to an audition, you don't think of it as that is a performance and that you're doing it because you love it, that you just want to embody that character and give them a life, whether you get cast or not. You must think of it, this is my work, this is what I enjoy doing, because you have absolutely no control over what other people are going to think about. And we're all projections anyway. We're projecting onto these stars, and we're projecting on to everybody all the time. And we're being projected upon as well. And so I think it's exactly right. The only people that can really, I think, survive any form of art, whether it's as a writer or as an actor or as a painter or as a visual, is that if it isn't giving you joy to do it, and all you're doing is doing it to get to some destination that you think you've arrived, I just don't think you can endure that ultimately. I think it destroys you.
I think we're also too hard on ourselves because, people can say all kinds of things to me, but nobody's the biggest critic of me than me, because I go, I could have done better than that, or I didn't handle that situation correctly. I've got learn from the lesson, and do it better next time. But I think you guys are huge examples. And for people who don't know, today Ruthie Landis was our featured author on our Writers Club and did this fantabulous workshop using the Enneagram, of the numbers, and these numbers symbolize certain attributes that can be from the lowest common denominator to the highest form. It was fascinating. I really love it. It was on how to develop your characters for your book, based on these things. So tell us your website again. It's Ruthie Energy.
RuthieEnergy.com, RUTHI, and then the word energy.com. But I just want to go back to say, like the character, the Molly Ringwald character, I mean, that's what made you love her, is that she was her authentic self. And she was an artist the way she dressed. Would she really have, that was really interesting when she was in the dress store.
That was a horrible outfit. I'm sorry.
Well, her outfit.
So matronly, it was.
Well, she did that, didn't she? Because there was something about the way she shopped that was trying to sort of be her daddy's mom. Yes.
I thought so too, because she was dressing way too old.
I know. And then there was, in contrast, the Annie Potts character, who was dressing way too young. And that was a very pivotal moment, wasn't it? When Annie Potts comes out and she's dressed more age appropriately. And she has to love that part of herself, Annie Potts. I just thought that relationship was beautifully constructed. I really did. Yes. Because she was sort of the mother figure, but Molly was sort of the mother figure too. And I still think that she was whether nice or not nice, what you liked or didn't like about what she wore, when she came out and he said, don't you want to go home and change your clothes? And she said, no, I already did. I just did. And she was so okay about that. And also, like that moment when the picture of her mother gets put in the drawer and closed, that was a very poignant moment. But in that store, and she looks at the dress that was $650. And, I think she didn't care. I think she'd rather create, even as we could have looked at her stuff and thought it was really goofy and ugly or whatever, it was still her. It was just her.
Yeah, it makes me want to know more about John Hughes too, because or the costume designer. I've always been fascinated with the costume designers in movies anyway, but the costumes in this movie were
Yeah.
pretty
I
pretty.
think that Molly Ringwald was actively involved in the development of her costumes, and she was a thrift store kind of gal herself, so they really sort of mimicked some of her own clothing, some of the articles of clothing she had in her own closet. They copied some of those looks. So Andy Walsh really was representative of some of Molly Ringwald's personal style. The John Hughes. So not only was so Molly Ringwald is a very bright, intelligent woman. She actually is a writer.
Mhm.
She's written quite a lot of articles for. I think she wrote one for the New Yorker where she was actually talking about her experiences with John Hughes, which is fascinating. So if you have a moment, certainly take a read because she's conflicted. She's very proud of a lot of the work she did with John Hughes, but some of the elements of his films today are controversial, especially some of the sexual themes in 16 Candles, sort of Me Too-esque in their tone. Um, so she reflects upon those in a very smart and fascinating way. But she actually is a French to English translator. She actually translated a best-selling novel from French to English titled Lie with Me, and it was set in the 1980s. It's sort of a Call Me by Your Name-esque love story by French novelist Philippe Besson. So she's got this whole other career as well as a translator of novels from French to English.
It's fascinating.
Wasn't her first husband was French and like her second husband was Greek or something like that, that she had her
Yeah.
kids with? Yeah, very interesting person. Yeah, John Hughes. So John Hughes did Home Alone, right? And didn't he? It was Home Alone.
You know, I will Google quickly.
Because I auditioned for that. I auditioned.
Did you really?
Mhm.
For the
for the mom? For the mom.
Catherine,
Yep, for her.
Yes, he did. Home Alone was his largest commercial success.
Right. And if you want my opinion, I was glad. I mean, Catherine O'Hara.
oh my God, I love her.
She was already, she was ahead of me. She's older than me, but I was brought in to the casting director.
I can see that. I can
role.
see it, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I went to see the movie, I was so glad that I really wasn't in that movie because I thought that was controversial. Why is there a comedy about forgetting your kid at home and leaving you driving away and leave? I know you're laughing, but it's like, how did that get to be such a commercial success? The kid was abandoned and left at home.
And then they did more.
They did more. Home Alone 2 and Home Alone 3. And okay, I understand the kid gets to rise up and get back at the bad guys and stuff, and it is slapstick and all that. But if you really look at the principle of that movie, it's horrific.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show you can spin anything.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Of spinning anything. The thing that I thought was ludicrous in the movie was after, she goes off with Andrew McCartney. I don't want to do spoilers, but anyway, at the prom, and Ducky's left there and he's looking around, and then the beautiful blonde girl, I thought, there's no way that happened. No way. I think the better thing that would have happened, he would have gone out and danced all by himself.
Me too. That's what I thought too. I mean, the best thing that would have happened is what Robert said, is if there was another guy across the room that would appreciate him. That would have been a nice thing.
It was the 80s. Wasn't going to happen, but
it wasn't going to happen then, but it would have been fine. But I thought the same way. If she came to the prom alone, then maybe Ducky could get in the center and he could dance and be free to be himself. And then maybe people would be attracted to him. But just to have that girl look across the room at him, it was very
I thought it was just like, oh, there we go, happy ending.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I think they call her Duckette. Duckette, played by Christy Swanson, I believe, who had her. I think that's one of her first films.
She was beautiful, but
Yeah.
no way that would have happened. No way.
No, and there were no scenes between him and anyone else other than James Spader, right? Like, I mean, in the school. So
It's like,
he
maybe.
wouldn't, yeah, they didn't develop any other interactions with anybody. Like if he had had a scene where she was with him in a scene and she kind of felt or waved at him or something, but
I think it's just, again, that was the 80s, and that's the way, the status quo goes on how movies end. One of the things that I found fascinating, because I've watched so many movies, is I watched a film from India last night about a young girl who father wants her to get married. They all want them to get married, get them settled right away so they won't go wild and get their MBA and all this stuff. And she says, I don't want to get married. I'm going to go to Mumbai and I'm going to become a poet and all this stuff. She gets in the film industry. But what happened was, it's kind of a long, convoluted tale, but she ends up marrying this guy one night when she gets extremely drunk. And he's always just been so just kind to her. And I'm just kind of thinking, well, maybe this will have a happy ending. India films will freak you out, man. They will freak you out because this guy is just the sweetest thing, and he's helped her in so many ways, and they wake up married and everything, and he takes her home to meet his family, and she's just horrified that she's done this and doesn't know how to get out of it. And this guy who played this angelic man literally turned 180 degrees and becomes a violent, abusive husband. And I have never been so shocked in my life. I did not see it coming. And this movie had the most shocking ending. I'm telling you, when you watch as many movies as I do, you can kind of see how things are going. Like you watch Pretty in Pink and you can see how things are going. But I'm telling you what, we need to watch more movies from other places because
that's right. Because the other cultures have a whole different thing. I will just say in a very anonymous way that I know of someone who dated someone from India, and the first presentation was, just really soft and peaceful and really nice man. And then this person took her back to the house and thought they were just going to have a cup of coffee. And guess what? It was a brutal attack. And, I'm not saying that's true for that culture or anything like that, but we do project American idealism or onto other places that we don't know anything about.
That happens here too.
Of course it does. Well, of course it does. But we then project onto these other cultures that, oh, they're different, or that they don't have the same shadow or darkness, but they do. They do.
We're all shades of gray, just like you said today. And nothing's black and white anymore. And we just need to recognize that we can all learn from these stories. I learned
Sometimes
a lot. Yeah, I learned a lot from this movie. It reminded me of that self I was in the 80s. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do in life. And, I was very lost and confused. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I became a hairdresser, but that was just a means to an ends. And then I look back on it now and I think it was a perfect profession for me, of somebody who loves being in service to others. But I always thought it wasn't until really recently that I was ever proud of it. I always thought it was, you know, not, I went to school with so many kids who really became, these incredible brain surgeon, pharmacists, superintendent of schools, and I become a hairdresser, and I just felt bad about it. But now that I look back on it, a lot of it had to do with my friend that was a brain surgeon. He said, I had my first heart attack when I was in my early 40s.
Yeah,
And
what did it say?
89, 90 some percent of my patients die. He goes, I watch your posts, Kathy. And he goes, I think you got a pretty good life. And I actually do. I'm very, I've changed my whole opinion on, so I've always respected waiters and people who serve others. And, I know my mailman, my garbage collectors, what they do really amazing jobs that make our lives easier. Why would we want to treat them any less? And I also know that's why so many men end up marrying their child's caregiver because you know what I'm saying? I read somebody the other day, they left their wife for the nanny. And I just thought, oh my, but it's because people that put themselves into service to others, we all want to be treated better.
So Kathy, lesson to that story is that always hire an ugly nanny.
Honestly, I don't think that matters.
Maybe not.
Well, okay. There, what's ugly? All right, we can laugh, but there's something to what you're saying, which is, if you don't trust your husband, or if you have a bad relationship, to be aware of that. But Kathy, I want to say something else. You walk in beauty, like for you, beauty. And this was something that I didn't say about the 4 energy, is that it is about beauty. It's about awe. It's about looking at a night sky and appreciating the stars. It's that being moved by life. So you did choose a service profession, but it was one in which you were bringing beauty to people. And I
saw it as an art form. I mean,
it was absolutely was an art form, and you created beauty for them, with them. I mean, it is a tremendous art form, and I think that the stylists, for instance, we were talking about costume designers. I mean, when I would be on any kind of TV set or movie set or whatever, I mean, I loved the costume designers. I loved the hairstylists. They were the people I love the camera person. I love the lighting people, because if they didn't light you well, you were dead up. I just have to tell you, those were the people that I wanted to hang with, that I hung with at lunch break, So I do think we've lost the sense of what the North Star really is. And I think you hit it today when you said, do what you're passionate about more than anything else.
Well, and it's somebody said, well, it's kind of like, well, I've always wanted to be an opera singer, but if you can't sing, you have to be you have to be a little bit of realist. I love to sing, but I'm a choir singer. I like to harmonize and do that, and I'm not I don't have the voice, but I love to sing and I love to dance. I love to dance. I dance every day in the house all by myself. People, if they had a camera here, they go, oh my God, that woman is crazy. But if you do the things that you love to do, and it's just, every day is a gift.
I think we need to get you a reality TV show. I think we've got to put a camera in that house.
You know what? I've told Mandy the other day, they just think I sit by the phone, and they email me and they go, and just like you guys email me, well, I don't know if you saw this today, but my daughter's dog died, and it's just horrible. And for I think about a year and a half, I raised this puppy because she was given this by her boyfriend in college, and she couldn't have a dog. So all of a sudden, me, the cat person, gets this little collie puppy, and I had to raise Leon. So it was right after she was trying to call me at the end of our Zoom, and she said, Mom, did you get my text? And I go, what's wrong? And she goes, Leon died. And I kind of just had to zone out for a little while and think about those years that we had with this pet. Because, and Robert, I know you lost your dog not too long ago. These are family members.
Awful.
And that dog loved Madeline, and I'm pretty devastated by it. But I look at this now and I think we were so lucky that we were able to have those times, and now we have those memories, but you've got to put everything in perspective, and you can't get so down about things. There's a lot going on in my life right now with health of a bunch of people, and I've been really I talked about empath. When people have these things happen, I get so emotionally involved in their story that I can't function. So I kind of zone out. So I don't sit by the email. So today when I got on there, oh my God, Ruthie and Robert are trying to get the link for today, and here it is. And but at the same point, Mandy and I said, I'm going to do one day, and it's probably going to be this summer. I'm going to set up the Zoom, and I'm going to leave it on all day. And I go, I just want you to see what happens in my life, how much the phone rings, how much I'm on email, all this stuff. I'll just use my phone for everything and keep it up and carry it around with me, because I can carry my laptop, because I don't think anybody has any idea how, when I get done with this, I'm going back to painting, or how I'm going to go and finish that book that I started.
But you're gonna get ready for your next Zoom session, and you're gonna decide on what you're gonna wear for it. When I said that, I wasn't making a joke. I think it would be a really interesting thing, a day in the life of Kathy L. Murphy. And you say so many really wise things. And you could just look at the camera, and you could talk to the camera, or you could talk to your cat, and be just who you are. And I think it would be.
I think you're going to be surprised too how quiet I am, because usually I take a break around lunch, have lunch, and then I turn on YouTube and I listen to music and stuff. And I woke up this morning at it's just really ungodly hour, and I couldn't get back to sleep. I was hot, and I thought, oh, I got to listen to some music. And so I went to YouTube and I played the soundtrack of To Kill a Mockingbird, which always calms me down and takes me to that happy place of when I was a child. And I shared it, and somebody said, oh my God, I've never heard that before. And I go, oh, I've watched that movie so many times. When that music comes on and that swelling, and when Boo comes out from behind the door, it all plays in my mind, and I can remember exactly the feel of the divan of sitting on my mom's couch in her living room, and how the light from the black and white TV's flickering, and we're drinking our Cokes with my sisters. It just takes me to that happy place. But this next book is going to have a lot of this in it. And when I wrote my first book, which my agent called The Guide to Life, I've told everybody I spit my coffee all across. I thought I ruined my computer, because she said, we're going to call it The Guide to Life. And I go, oh my God, no way. I have made more mistakes than anybody in an entire lifetime. She goes, that's why I think people would love to hear your story. Now, the next one's going to be a guide to life too, but I've had a lot of years to discern how the lessons I've learned from all these, we don't call them failures, we discovered that in work. discoveries. Doesn't that sound better? And you talked about words today. I collect words. And I thought if we just take all those negative words and substitute it for a word that is more positive, it changes the entire perspective of the way you think. And so that's why I read the Book of Lost Words. I've got lots of books about words. In fact, one of the books on that list I put up on one of the best books I ever read, I had to get a dictionary out for, because Willie Morris, who's one of my favorite authors I never got to meet, he's from Yazoo City, Mississippi. He was brilliant. He had a vocabulary that was incredible. But usually I can tell by reading a story what the words mean by the way it's used in the sentence. But he has words in there I'd never heard of before. And I do that word a day thing that you get from Merriam-Webster. And so I'd have the dictionary. It's called TAPS by Willie Morris. And it's probably, he wrote My Dog Skip, you guys. If you haven't ever seen the film My Dog Skip, actually the film in some ways was better than the book, but I love to collect words. And I always have read the dictionary. I have them all over the place, and thesauruses and things. But that's exactly, you don't get to this point in your life where you don't have knowledge to give, and not in a preachy way, but just, you guys, before you make that choice, let me tell you something. Everything you eat comes back to haunt you when you get older. So I tell my children every day, they are really good eaters. I mean, they eat well. I said, I grew up in the years of processed food, Kraft macaroni and cheese, Chef Boyardee, spaghetti, frozen pizza, TV dinners. Oh my God, it's a wonder I'm even alive. So I said, if you think about everything you read, everything you take in, whether it's through your brain, your hearing, your taste, has effects on where you're going to be when you turn almost 65, which I will this summer, right after you. I'm going to turn 65 in August. So why are we so youth cultured in this world? People say to me all the time, well, are you going to have plastic surgery? And I go, oh, hell no. Because then you just start all looking like Cher.
What's wrong with that? I love Cher.
I love Cher too, but my God, they say she's got zippers. She's had so much work done. But I've done a lot of people that have had major plastic surgery, like Joan Rivers. And it's really tells you more about how insecure they are about the way they look. I'm happy with the way I look. Of course, I'd love to get rid of the waddle and be thin, slinky slim. I grew up in that era where you wanted the hip bones jutting out. There's never going to be bone jutting out unless I break it.
Oh, don't say that. But I want to go back to what you said about everything you eat, everything you read, and thinking of a word. Look at the word digest. Everything you digest. Look at how it applies to how do you digest what you read. How do you digest what you eat? It's like how you take it in and process it and either get nourished by it or get sick by it,
Yeah.
And it's that kind of word. I want to throw out another thing. I love when you said when you replace words. So one of the words that I always ask my clients to replace is to take the word but out of
I'm trying to break that habit so bad. But and those are the three words that I wish I would never say again. How do you get rid of it?
Well, you get rid of the word but by replacing it with and.
Okay.
Because but stops the flow forward. It's the doubt. It's the.
I use it a lot. Yeah.
And the word and says, and I mean, it could go this way or it could go another way. There's something about the word and that is inclusive and still open. And it is hard to take but out completely. And in my writing, I try never to use the word but in my writing if I can. if I can. I can say yet. I can say yet. And I try not to. So it really is life changing. It really is, especially for my clients that are doubters, that stop themselves, that can't move forward. It's a really big one. I love looking for words like that I can replace.
When I grew up, my mother was a speech and drama major, and she literally articulates everything that she says. And there is never a time when it's not perfectly pronounced. It's not wash my clothes, it's wash. It's go get the phone. It's, and so we were corrected my whole life. Every time Karen go, oh, go look in the cheater chest. She goes, that is cedar chest. Go, well, I don't know. Go look and see if it's in my jury box. That is jewelry box. And I hated it when I was a child, but I'm very aware of it now when I'm on television.
And you're very aware of it now.
Yes. I'm crying. I listened to you today and I thought, there is not one time where you said, and I thought, oh, I hear myself on these. I play these back and I think, how can I be better? You're great, Robert. You say everything wonderful.
Succinctly.
Yes.
Robert, you are so impeccable. You say everything so clearly, with clarity.
And your vocabulary is, and what you said about vocabulary, it's very interesting. I know all these words and I try to work them in. And sometimes I get stuck on certain ones like trajectory, or when I would go to New York for sales conference they always had a key word for the season. Well, that's a sexy book. This is a sexy read, or we're going to segue. And I write these down. I say, okay, this year at sales conference. and somebody posted, they said, how do people talk in Texas that's different than any place else? And I go, I can tell you about East Texas. East Texas, think of Matthew McConaughey, because he lived, he's from just down the road from me. You know how he says, all right, all right, all right. I go, everybody in East Texas says things in threes. They go, is he going to be okay? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm just going, what are you echoing these words over and over? But it's true. And they also have words that you won't find anywhere else in the country, because I've written them down. Like I put, my ex-mother-in-law said one day, well, I don't know. I was just going down Joe Davis Road and I guess I was going too a little fast and I went around the curve and tumped over in my Bronco. And I go, tump. She goes, well, it was just lightly dumped over. It wasn't like a crash. I just went, chink. And I just thought, tump, I've got to use that word. Or I was out on Caddo Lake and I was in my P-row and I just thought, I need to get out of here for a while. So I tied my P-row up to a staub. I go, what is a staub? A staub is a stick that's up out of the water, usually a cypress knob, from the trees. But, and Ravis Wortham does the West Texas old-timey phrases, and we all have them. And it's like, I know, Ruthie, and your family, there's something that your dad probably said that nobody else you ever heard them say. Can you think of something right offhand that your father would have said that nobody else would have said?
Oh, there's so many things, both my mom and dad that did. And I need to say to you that your mother was, asking you to learn, proper English. In the theater, they would say standard American English or something. And I caught myself. And I want to say that I am very jealous of the Southern writers, because I think that there is a music. I live in the Midwest, and I was talking to Mandy about this. It is, the Midwest is a boring, there's nothing much. And the South, even though, there's all these different areas of the South, there are idioms and ways you say things that
Robert, the way
I know. It's like music.
yeah,
It's like, to me, it's like music. And I would much rather it be imaginative and kind of inaccurate in a grammatical way, and yet have the cadence and the imagination that you guys, if the Southern writers have, that I don't have. I don't have that. I have my heart. But I don't have that kind of languaging. The Midwest is really boring linguistically.
we tend to bastardize words.
Which is great. This is what I'm saying.
Jury box and cheater chest, and that's the way I grew up with that. Give me a wash rag, and it's washcloth.
Yeah.
But my mother, my dad said when he was at college, he would see her and she'd see him and run, and he goes, what have you been up to? She goes, oh, you just wouldn't believe, I hope to shout. And I go, what does that mean? Hope to shout. It's just kind of an exclamation that, something great. But I've never heard it by anybody else in my entire life, hope to shout. And so when I hear those weird little sayings that people say, I tend to write them down, and we're losing them because we're so caught up in the vernacular of today's technology. And that's
autocorrect. You're autocorrecting. I'm sitting and I'm writing, and it's showingly blue. You have to put a comma here. I don't want a comma there. And it interrupts the cadence. It computerizes us a little bit. And I don't think that the Southern writers don't do that as much. I really want to say that about you guys.
It changes the words to things that you just, oh my God, I posted that. And it's, instead of saying, truck, it's going to say,
yeah.
Right.
And I half the time I type faster, I'm thinking so fast, I type really fast and I post it, and then I go back, oh my God, it left out, and the.
Well, just yesterday, my work with Easter says I was texting our HR director. She had texted me to ask me a question, and I wrote back, I said, well, I'll get back with you in a sec, is what I wanted to say. And it said sexy. And so she wrote back LOL. She goes, oh yeah, sure. As long as you're calling me sexy, I'm cool.
Oh, it's just horrifying sometimes what it changes the names to, or every time I sign my name off as Cat, it'll put hat. It'll say truly hat, and I go, no, it's Cat. And it tries to correct things that is a name or something, or it changes to something else. But well, we've got totally off track, as we usually do when we get in talking about our films and our movies. But we can all learn from stories, whether they're screenplays, whether they're books like yours, whether there's books like Robert's, whether they're songs. The song that you played today, the words was beautiful. I wrote down Ryan O'Neal. I'm going to go back and listen to it. All of these things come into play, and you talked about our senses. My favorite books are the ones that bring all of them in. You can actually smell the lilacs in the air, or the honeysuckle, or you can visualize the taste of that gumbo. All these things come into place. So, and
don't you think that, I'm really going to keep pushing that, I think Southern writers tend to be more in sync with that too. And I'm not even saying rural. There is a sense of being connected to the land, to the senses that big city folk we get cut off from. Like, I've done everything in my power not to get cut off from it. I just have a little city garden, like just a little city garden. And I try to make it so sacred and so important, because it is full of all those things, the richness of what Southern writers tend to do. And I, I, I I think that's why I love reading Southern work.
Probably a lot of that is because our parents were raised mostly rurally. It's only been now that people are generationally in cities. It's starting to change again because now everybody's trying to get out of the cities because of COVID. I mean, we're having mass migration of Californians to Texas. And here at Holly Lake Ranch, there's nothing for sale. Everybody in Dallas is buying up property. And so, in fact, in Jefferson, where I used to live, property that hasn't sold for years is being snapped up by people all over the country moving there, wanting that. It's a very southern city. In fact, the mayor of Shreveport told me that Jefferson is more southern than Shreveport because it was the furthest you could go by up the Red River system into a port before you had to go by wagon train. Jefferson was bigger than Dallas at one point.
What?
Yes. And I mentioned a book on my blog today that is one of the best books I've ever read. I've tried to get everybody to make it into a film because it's one of the most amazing stories I've ever read. It's called Love is a Wild Assault by Aleth Hamilton Kirkland. And it's about the first white woman who settled on the shores of Caddo Lake. And this woman, she ended up marrying a man in Texas legislature, but she was living amongst the Panthers, the native Indians, and then the, backwoods, you can almost hear the banjos. She's living with all these children that she just keeps having over and over and over. And everything that she goes through is like, it's like the Gone with the Wind of East Texas. It's all about the land. And Caddo is such an interesting, it's the only natural lake in Texas. And it's all Spanish moss and alligators. And they've done all these movies there. But nobody's ever heard of this book. So those books that I list, a lot of them you're going to know, a lot of them you're going to never have heard from or heard about. But it's like I always say, a good book is a good book no matter when it's written. It's a great story. It all came about from a BookBub thing where they asked authors movies they could never get out of their mind. And one of the first ones was Island of the Blue Dolphins. I actually did a painting called that because that was so imprinted in my mind when my teacher read it about how this little girl survived on this island alone with a dog forever and lived off the land, that I still think about it, So those are the books that I listed on that list. And next week, we're going to be back. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited about it, Robert. And thank you we did the 70s with Shampoo. We're doing 80s with Pretty in Pink. And we're going into the 90s with Urban Cowboy. So when that movie came out, Dallas was in its, J.R. Ewing was just, it's probably the most iconic television show worldwide. People watch it, you can go, if they find out you're from Texas. I was walking through a flea market in Florence with my pink straw cowboy hat on. And as we all walked by, the vendor starts whistling the theme from Dallas. And we were just like, hey, y'all. And it's just like, when people think of the United States, they immediately think of New York or Texas. That's the two places they think of first. And I hate to tell people this, but nobody wears cowboy hats here. It's West Texas or Kansas, where I come from, where people actually wear hats. So I have got the real thing. So I'll be wearing my real cowboy hat. And we'll be talking about that wonderful film with John Travolta and gosh, the Bronco bull. Are you going to be a bull rider?
I am not sure yet. I don't know that I have anything Western. I'll figure something out.
Well, by God, I think you put a bolo on that and you'd be Western.
I could actually, yeah.
Yeah, you could. Just get a bolo, a white shirt and a bolo, and starch those jeans, man. You got to starch with a crease. the crease in the jeans, and we'll put on our boots and we'll have fun. So, gosh, you guys, this is the best Saturday nights ever. We're all pretty in pink.
We are.
And I cannot think of, in some ways, I hope this never goes away because it really is a lot of fun for me. And I love talking stories, whether it's books, whether it's movies, whatever. We all are sharing and our stories too. So, any last words from all of you?
No, it's been great. It's been a wonderful day. Got to kick it
Look,
off.
my hair's going back now. All I have to do is, if I had a curling iron, I could do the Farrah.
Good.
Oh my gosh, I
You're
had.
like a quick change hair artist.
Oh yeah, well, it's going back in the messy bun because I'm getting ready to paint. So you all have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time this coming week. Well, oh my gosh, this coming week, Joe Ross Davis is doing another post tomorrow. And then starting on Monday is one of my crazy Montana friends, Richard Fifield. And I guarantee you, this will be probably one of the most entertaining weeks of the summer because Richard he designs his own clothes. He's just fabulous.
He is fab. That's the best adjective. Fabulous.
Fantabulous, and we're going to have so much fun. So he will be on next week for Tuesday Night Book Club, and who knows what all. I just wait for it because actually my daughter met him. My oldest daughter met him when she helped me host Girlfriend Weekend, and they became pen pals. And it was just the sweetest thing. He just loves Lainey. And they became pen pals. And since she's had her little boy, it's been a little harder. But what she doesn't know is I bought his silent auction items during our Girlfriend Weekend. And it's all Montana things. So I'm going to be passing that on to Lainey and my grandson. Because wait, you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it at our online book club because I'm going to wear all the items. Wait till you see. You're just gonna all from Montana. So y'all have a great night. Happy Saturday here on June the 12th. It's summer.
It's summer.
I know. So when's your birthday? The 29th?
Oh no, I'm just getting my hair done. July.
Birthday was in July.
No, my July 13th. It's my birthday.
July 13th. Okay, we'll have to remember to sing you happy birthday. And my birthday was always the first day of school, August 27th. I think that maybe have to be the day that I'll do the all-day Zoom.
That would be perfect, wouldn't it? And now, so does that, so you're still a Leo or are you into Virgo? You're a Virgo. So when does it tip from Leo to Virgo?
21st.
Oh.
21st.
You're a Virgo. You're a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo, but I have, I don't have the organizational skills that most Virgos have.
But you do have some Leo. You do have Leo.
My sister's a Leo. My little sister's a Leo. So we'll probably do that then. And what I'll do is throughout the day, anybody who wants to jump on board, we'll have you be a part of it. And
I love it.
I'll set the time schedule and we'll just do a day in the life. And that August 27th, I have no idea what day that is. Let's look and see. What day is the 13th?
I don't know. I don't think about my birthday.
I can't even, well, I'm thinking about mine because I turned 65. Can you believe it? I never thought I'd live this long. Jeez. Jeez Louise. It's a Friday. Perfect. Okay.
July 13th is a Tuesday.
Huh?
July 13th is a Tuesday.
No, her birthday, August 27th, is a Friday.
Well, Tuesday, we'll have to sing you happy birthday at our book club meeting.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do.
That is if I don't have any clients. See, I have clients every other Tuesday.
Well, we can still sing you happy birthday.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Not there. So here we go. You and I need to talk about getting the schedule set up through the end of the month too. So maybe after this is over, we can get back on and talk about that.
I'm going to hang up and say, ta-ta.
Ta-ta for now, everybody. See you at the movies. Come back. Can you come back, Robert?
Yes.
You're still here. You're still here.
Yeah.
But if I hit unrecord.
Yeah. Just stop. Yeah. Just click the record.
Okay. Where is it? Stop. I have to end it, I think. Oh, no, here.
No,